I've asked myself that same thing multiple times throughout the career. You would have to write essays about it sometimes. One of the things you have to do before you even join is you got to write why I want to join. So I guess I would say over the years it's kind of changed. Um, but I think when it all comes down to in the essence of it, it's because I can, therefore I should. Um, I recently had a conversation with my son who's going through the program right now. He's enlisting right now, going the 18 X-ray route, and we were discussing that. And kind of between the both of us, I briefly touched on it before, and then when I asked him again recently, he's already working with the recruiter. He says, "Because I can do it and others can't, therefore I must." And I thought that was like, "Where'd you hear that?" He was like, "Well, I heard you say it." Um, and I think he narrowed it down there, and I might have just kind of mentioned it just kind of offhand, but it's some deep truth there because not everybody can do it, and somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's been a great experience. It also comes with a lot of sacrifices, a lot of time away from home, but in my opinion, it's the best job in the world. It's the dream job. So there's even in my case, I haven't been in for enormous amounts of time. I just had dinner last night with my buddy who was retiring after 22 years. So we got some sushi down in Huntington Beach, where I'm currently at right now. But yeah, it was great, man, and it was. And I wouldn't shed a tear. I'm still going to see him again. We're still going to hang out here and there. He moved away out of state, but our wives are friends and still see each other. But not being able to work with him, have to work with him for at least 10 years. Yeah, it's a rough thing. Down to the point, getting back to it, it's um, it's just one of those jobs that's just freaking awesome and hard to get away from. And it's easier to say why I did it now that I'm done, or I wouldn't say done, but already in it, because I get to see what's behind the curtain. I get to attest that the juice is worth the squeeze. Um, and I remember asking myself using that same verbiage, and me and a buddy of mine, Kevin Brady, my best friend, we going through the pipeline, going through selection, and just asking ourselves, man, this really, can I cuss on this? I don't know
Yeah.
the form.
Say whatever you want.
Yeah, man, it's just like this fucking sucks. We kept asking ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because I mean, my feet are falling apart. We've been on this rut or under this rut for so long. It's just we're cold, wet, and it sucked. But is it worth going through all this? And I guess we kind of just stuck with it, believing it would be, and it definitely was. So to all the people that I kind of I wouldn't say mentor, but within that realm for people, I always bring that up. I always say, hey, look, I just want to tell you up front, right now, while you're sucking and it's really shitty and you're cold and you're wet, it's worth the squeeze, because right now you may be sucking, but other times you're going to have a good time. Other times your wife is going to hate you because you're off on some kind of Euro vacation or down in Africa, but maybe taking a weekend and doing a safari, or you're going to be all over the place. You're going to get to see the world. And I grew up, I mean, um, I grew up and I wouldn't say in extreme poverty or anything, but grew up in East Palo Alto and in the ghetto, and having the ability to kind of just get off and go fly around, and at the very least in the last 13 or so years, I've been going, well, I would say operational 10, but I've been going to different places at least once a year, or spending a whole year out there. Um, and just being able to go out and see the world, it really teaches you a lot, and it is worth the squeeze, because sometimes it sucks, and even now, sometimes it's stuck going up some kind of rocky ass mountain with a 130-pound ruts, because in the Q course, and that's the Special Forces qualification course, you got a 65-pound ruck. That's what you're expected to do, 12 miles, the whole infantry standard, 12 miles in 3 hours, and you're like, man, this sucks. And then you find yourself years later in Afghanistan going up mountaintops with 130 pounds on your back, because Carl Gustav rounds are not light, and you got to hook up your mortar guy, and he's taking up a tube and somebody else taking up a plate, and you got a bunch of mortars in your ruck, and it sucks. But with that suck comes a lot of privilege, a lot of responsibility. You get to do some pretty cool stuff, and folks rely on you to be that ambassador. or for the United States government. You know, you're out there all by yourself. You're meeting up with some people in some far off mountain, and you represent the country. You know that they give you that responsibility, and it's a heavy responsibility. And at the same time, it's rewarding and it's awesome. So yeah, reason I joined, I would say because it's worth it, and just simply because I was able to do it, physically capable, mentally capable, and just smart enough to be one of the guys on a team and get things done and be depended on, and carry that weight, you know. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons, just that sense of duty that I've kind of had since I was a kid. I think it's just, I think that's where it lies, man. I can't say I asked myself recently. I'm, filing some paperwork because I'm expecting to keep advancing in my career, and I was writing up another resume, and I found myself kind of saying something along those lines. You know, it's a little bit easier. It comes out smarter, I guess, when you're sitting down and you're editing yourself instead of just verbally like I am right now. But it's all a sense of duty, I think. Along with that comes a lot of freaking cool stuff.
So is that what, drove the decision to, to go special forces instead of, regular Army, regular infantry? Was it 11 Bravo?
11 Bravo, yeah. Your guys is 0311.
Yeah.
It kind of came as a package. My recruiter just kind of set it up that way, where it was kind of just one shot deal, and I was just able to complete all the training. There's a lot of guys that kind of fall out along the way, or they gotta, you just lose sight of them, and I don't know if they just keep trying. I didn't make it without failing first time through. I failed a course, had to redo it, kind of a heartbreaker, but.
So if you try and you fail, are you allowed to try again?
You are, depending on, I mean, like anything else, it's if you verbally quit and then you kind of just, make that public pronouncement that I quit, I mean, in the eyes of the regiment, I mean, at that point, I mean, forgive my bluntness, but you're considered a pussy at that point. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things that if you're willing to quit in training because it's cold and wet and your feet ache, then you're probably going to quit on your brothers when you're out in the mountaintop, or, guys are shot and you've got to pull them out of there, or whatever, like the shittiest situation, stuff that you've seen yourself, Andrew, if a guy quits in training, why won't he quit there? Why won't he just shut down? And maybe he doesn't verbally quit. Maybe it's just his attitude, just, he just can't pull through it, or he's just stuck. He's not going to, that's not the type of personality they're looking for.
And what's the attrition? What's the attrition rate of, but like, I guess if you could split it between guys who choose to quit and then guys that just don't pass?
They kind of fall out along the way, and I've seen 25% failure rate. I've seen 10. I mean, the whole Green Beret song says 3 out of 100, but I think that just changes from class to class. Sometimes you get classes of pretty good dudes, pretty solid guys, and for whatever reason, they're more motivated, or maybe they have better instructors. I think that's a big part about it. Being able to mentor a little bit better. Sometimes you just get a really shitty instructor, tactical, what we'd call him, and he doesn't care. He wants to weed people out, and that's where he kind of gets his rocks off. But there's other times where you come across people, and I had both, where they want to see you through, and they encourage you, and they kind of get you going. But honestly, I'd have to see the latest stats. I would say, let me see, we had about 400 guys in my selection class. I would say there was about, by the end of it all, and this is by no means like the attrition rate, but there's probably classes of about 300 to 500, I guess. And that same class, if you follow them through, would probably be graduating probably about 60 to 80 of the original guys, and you got some recycles. I failed a course, which is a small unit tactics. It's kind of like a ranger school, our version of ranger school, where it's, really similar curriculum there. So I just, I didn't have what it takes at the time. I still needed to relearn some stuff. I wasn't grasping the whole briefing part and the op order stuff. So physically I was there. Mentally, academically, I was lacking. I was just new to the Army. Um, that is a disadvantage you take in the program that I was involved in.
Because you don't get that experience, like that sort of real world experience.
You don't. I mean, shoot, man. I was a plumber one day, and then I'm enlisting, and I'm going towards becoming a Green Beret the next, and there's not a lot of growth that can happen in those I would say couple of years, not a little bit more. So I just I didn't know how to brief. I didn't know what an op order was. So kind of piecing that together, briefing guys out in the field or having that leadership experience. Well, I just hadn't honed it in yet. So I failed in that, and it wasn't like it's not a stain in my career. A lot of the guys, I wouldn't say most, but probably you recycle phases along the way where they just stop you and say, hey man, you're not moving forward. We're going to go ahead and restart you day one. So put you back about 2 months and go rest up, heal your feet, and restart.
You have to start all over?
You don't. Depends if you're gone for a while, but let's say I was about midway through the course. I failed that section of it, or that phase, and they just said, okay, start back. So I lost 61 days, give or take. So I just had to restart with the very next class going through that phase.
Okay.
And but going back and you get a new look, you get a fresh look. I think a lot of the instructors are pretty fair about that. Where if you don't make it through, but you have what it takes, just not there yet. They're not going to push people through. And I'll pause on that because I think it's a very important thing. I can look back on it, and I remember I had a very young son, David, and all I wanted to do is get finished through the course and get back to my little boy that I wasn't seeing growing up. And 2 months of his life is that's a long time, especially when he was probably about 3 or 4 months old. So it was a big deal for me. I wanted to get home to the kid and see him grow up as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it made me a hell of a lot better. I mean, I went back and I hit the books and I tried to understand it. Next thing I knew, weeks later, it was kind of coming together in my head, and I started kind of teaching the other guys, kind of mentoring them, the guys that hadn't gone through it. And I was a recycle at the time. It's kind of you got a little bit, it's a little stain on because, oh, he's a recycle, he's a shitbag, because if you haven't gone through it, you just think everybody that recycles is a shitbag.
Yeah.
Some are, but my instructors gave me a fair look. They liked me. They understood that it was just, lack of experience that I've gotten in. I took every opportunity to ask them questions, and let me close that door there. And I just kept going forward, man. I did really well on the next one. I had to learn a few valuable lessons, like one thing I tell a lot of my guys on civilian side or on the military side is just, if you're a new guy, just shut the fuck up and learn. I say that over and over and over again because it's so true. We don't come to this world just knowing everything. You don't just show up one day and you're going to run that job site. You're not. You got to spend your time kind of sweeping the floors and taking out the trash and hearing from the older guys, and then work your way into being an accepted guy on the team. And I hadn't figured that out yet. So I would mouth off sometimes, just my inexperience. But they corrected that and got me where I needed to be. All the small little deficiencies that I had are great ones. I was able to kind of just bring all those skills together and really start understanding them. The first guys that I had, it's funny because some of these guys you will work with in your career. So the first set of instructors that I had were, they didn't want to be there. They didn't want to be instructors. It's like anything else. It's an assignment. Guys are off. They're having fun. They're a team guy, and all of a sudden the orders come down. They get a SWIC assignment, and they've got to go be instructors.
What time frame is this? Like what year? Was this like the in the height of?
09, 10.
So that was what the surge in Afghanistan sort of time period.
Yeah, or just after. But it was up when I got in Afghanistan later on. It was the surge is still going on.
So
I mean,
these
it was
guys get
178,000.
yeah, I can understand, how these guys they're team guys and they're used to operating, and then all of a sudden it's like now you got to go train these, these new guys, and
Yeah.
I could see how that would be irritating or not what you want.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's a mixture of both, Andrew. There's some guys they're doing their SWIP tour, they call it. It's about 2 years, and it's a lot of times for career development. They'll go out there and they'll be a SWIP instructor for about 2 years. At the same time, they can do a lot of professional development in schools, and then after that, kind of come back to their team and maybe as a team sergeant or a senior guy on their team. So it doesn't. But nobody likes being off a team. A team
yeah,
is where you want to be. You want to be in the action. That's why you joined. So a lot of these guys, they don't want to be there, and I don't blame them. But it's funny because the way the regiment's built is the same guys that train you are the same guys you're fighting with next year, the couple of years after that. You're like with them in Afghanistan. It happened to me over and over again where I had these instructors, either I didn't like them or we didn't get along or they loved me. And then a year or two or 10 later down the road, we're like working together. Or, either he's my team sergeant or whatever. We're in the vicinity working together, and it's like, man. And it's funny because it's such a small community, and it is, and it's like, hey, why did you recycle me? Oh, you just weren't good enough at the time, man. It wasn't anything personal. You're just a number to me. So don't get any hard feelings, dude. I didn't know who you were. Now you're my teammate. And that conversation I've at least had twice. But that being said, I mean, some guys actually really care because they will be. Other guys just don't want to be there and they're just angry. You also have this other set of guys that were there, at least when I went through. There was contractors, so they worked for NEK or some other company, and they're there because they're old retired guys and they still want to be involved in the regiment. So the Army or USASOC would kind of sub that out to those guys to come in as instructors. And I really like those guys because they had been there, they had done that, they were older guys, and they had a better eye for potential, I think. And one in particular really helped me out and straightened me out, where on one occasion I was kind of not mouthing off, but just instead of saying Roger that, moving on, I try to give an excuse. And I learned to expect that from other people now at this point, but that when you're getting something done and you know what you're doing, you're proficient at something, and you got this young guy mouthing off because he thinks he has an opinion or his opinion is valid when he doesn't know anything, you learn really quick. Either you're going to learn something from the guy or he just better just shut the fuck up and learn, and at some time in my life, I was a guy that had to shut the fuck up and learn. It's a really blunt way of saying it, but these older guys really taught me that, and I think they even taught me that phrase. But yeah, man, it's really it's challenging course, but you just learn so much. It's so goddamn long, It's an average guy goes into the course, starting from, let's say, basic training to get out. You're a Delta or something, you probably take up about 3.5 years or more. I went through the course, took me about start to finish. The Q course itself is only about, I think they reduced it down to about a year now. They're trying to mass produce guys, but
so you do Q course and then selection, or selection?
No. So the way it runs, sorry, man, we'll bring that down because I just kind of mouth. But the process is you go through basic training, and the phases are all different. They change all the time. But basically, you go to basic training, you follow on to go to airborne school. In airborne school, some of those guys are going to the Ranger Battalion. Some of those guys are just going to 82nd Airborne if they had that in their contract. And then other guys are going out to the Q course. The Q course starts after selection. So you go to a preparation course. You pass that, or you're good enough. You keep going. Then you go to selection. Selection is where the Army just kind of invites everybody to kind of come and try out. It's basically a tryout, and it changes from, it's around 20 to 20 something days. I think mine was 19 days when I went through, and I think it's been as short as 14 days. There were some videos or some show they called 14 Days in Hell. But it's usually about 3 weeks, give or take.
And they're just trying to separate. They're trying to get the guys that have that they know, wouldn't be able to handle what's going on or what's going to be coming up.
It's I think HRs considers it a school because there's a lot you learn about yourself there. You don't get yelled at except for a couple of occasions where they're just trying to really build up the stress, log and rifle PT, but everything else is pretty chill, man. You get your instructions. You're expected to be a big boy, and that's the thing. I wouldn't even call it a gentleman's course because all you have to do, they give you a time when you're going to sleep and when you got to get up more than anything. I think they just let you know when you're going to sleep, but you get up and you got to go check a whiteboard. You get all your instructions there for the day, what your packing list is, and then they just spot check you. Like they say, you wake up in the morning, you go say, hey, my packing list for my ruck, or there's going to be a ruck. This is the stuff I'm taking. And it's all measured out, weighed. So you get to a certain spot, you get a starting point, and then they'll pick a few guys out and, hey, drop your ruck, let me see what you got. And if you're missing something, you can't follow instructions. So you kind of just start, it's kind of it's a really selection part. So can you follow orders and can you get along with others? And are you smart enough? That's like the 3 basic pillars that they do. The first week, give or take, about gates. So you got to do a PT test and run a couple miles and do some push-ups, and there's a certain number that you got to pass. And then there's a kind of a long distance run, probably 5 miler or so, and there's a ruck. Every day there's an event. At the same time, you're taking all these written tests and all these that's what they are. What do they call it? Wonderlic test or something like that. Football players take it as well. And they're also training you and teaching you some things as you go along. The next week after that is land navigation. So they really test if you were able to pay attention in class and you're not crazy and you were able to do it yourself and you're fit enough, move on to the next week, land navigation, where it kind of comes together. They even give you a couple classes of it where they want you to get from point A to point B. If you were able to kind of absorb all the information you had the week prior, and now you apply it and you're able to listen and ask the questions you need to, because no one's a dick there. You're able to get point A to point B using a map. It's just kind of a test. It's an ass kicker at the same time. You got to ruck on the whole time, but they want to see if you can do things as an individual. The 3rd week is called team week, and not so much as an individual. Now you have to how do you excel in a team environment? Can you lead when you need to lead, and can you follow when you need to follow? Is the big focus on that.
Is this the point where because I've seen the I think Discovery Channel did the Making the Cut, where they did buds, sniper schools, I think they did selection. Is this the point where they give you the tire and the big poles and shit, and they say go?
Yeah, build an apparatus and make it go. It's giving you what would seem at first glance kind of an impossible task, but what you're going to do as a team, what ideas are you going to come up with? Now, when you get a group of guys, especially a bunch of alpha males, it's not always easy to follow. Everybody knows what they have to do. Everybody thinks they know that they're the best, but you're not. So they'll get some guy, hey, you're going to be, you guys are the 2 leaders. You're like leader and assistant leader, right? And now put this plan together. Now it's your opportunity. If you are an alpha male and you've got a group of alpha males, which that's how it is on a team, you got to be able to convince those guys to do your plan. Now, are the guys gonna, if they don't like you, they're not gonna do it. If you're being a dick and you don't know how to lead, you don't know how to persuade these guys to come up with this plan and put together a plan, or you don't take their input, some of these guys are like, oh, fuck you, man, I'm not helping you. Or they'll just try to make you look bad. So there's a balance there, and it takes true leadership, and it's a school at the end of the day, right? So you start developing those skills. You can't just walk into selection with them, because probably nobody's ever been in a situation where they have to kind of be a leader of a bunch of dudes, not a bunch of betas,
Yeah.
But everybody still pulls together because they want to be rated high. Along with these things come peer evaluations where you say, hey, you know what, this dude over here, like, hey, Andrew, yeah, that dude's squared away. He leads when he needs to lead, and they, put a positive comment, a couple of negatives if they need one, right? If the guy's a real shitbag, it's the team's opportunity to kind of boat that guy off the island. So either you have a strong team, weak team. Dude, I had a massive team. I was like, I've always been, pretty fit. Always worked out a lot since I was a kid, and I was like small compared to everyone else. Everybody was massive. So we got we had to move a couple logs or something. It was nothing for these guys. These guys just throw them on, and I just had a massive team. We were always coming in first. I just got lucky that way. I could have ended up on a team that comes in at 4 in the morning, but I ended up on a team that was really strong. We had really, really good team cohesion, and I think everybody on that team was selected later on.
Do they have the philosophy of it pays to be a winner?
Absolutely.
So you finish first, you get to, I'm not saying, downtime, but less, extreme sort of shit,
No, you get some rest, man. It's like I said, it's a gentleman's course. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy and you're walking around in a bow tie or anything, but if you finish, then you're rewarded by a little bit more sleep. Maybe you get to eat, all those basic things. I mean, all the things are kind of ripped away from you. You only eat when it says to eat on the board. So all of those things are rewards, and they're small, but they're a big deal then. And it absolutely pays to be a winner. There's an event the week prior, before, when you're doing land navigation. I was able to finish my STAR course in time, and because I finished in time, I got the whole next day, because there's another evaluation for the guys that failed the first day. They get a second chance, second shot at it. They kind of retrain a little bit. But since I finished it the first day, I was lucky enough to get it done. Then I got to, I jumped on a cattle truck. They just kind of put you in. They take you all the way back from where you're doing that training back to where you sleep, and then you get the next day off. And I remember just going. I was so exhausted. I slept for like 18 hours, and I ate anything I wanted. There's access to the chow hall, so there's absolutely, it pays to be a winner when you're dealing with individual events. When you're dealing with team events, you're only as fast as your weakest link, So if you got a guy that just can't do it and he's holding your team down, then you all suffer. And how do you all suffer? You got a really poor leader that he just has no concept of mechanics, so he can't put these apparatuses together and have them work efficient. Because you'll get like a broken down Jeep with like 1 tire or 2 tires or whatever, and you gotta use poles and straps and lashes and whatnot to kind of carry this thing, for miles. So you kind of figure it out. But you get a guy that's his plan, and you just gotta go with it. Either the plan fails, and after a while somebody else would just kind of take charge, and the cadre are watching that. They'll see like, hey, you know what? This guy's plan totally failed, and he's kind of let somebody else come over and take charge. Now, there's a fine line with that, in leadership, when you make a decision and you sink the ship, or you kind of take good advice, but and it can go both ways, and you're being evaluated both ways. It can be like, hey, this guy, the whole ship was sinking, and this guy totally just somebody else just came up with an idea, and he just kind of just say, oh, okay, his idea. He didn't think about it. He just kind of executed somebody else's plan. So he's a spineless leader, right? Or you also have the guy that just the ship is sinking, and he's just like, hey, no, fuck you, man, shut the fuck up. This is my ship, and I'm gonna make it sink, or I'm gonna make it go. This is gonna work, and it doesn't. So there is this kind of weird. It's kind of a weird dynamic that you kind of have to kind of just navigate through, and kind of see what they're expecting. You don't know what they're expecting. Nobody really knows what to do.
It seems like the cadre are looking and evaluating good leadership as well as knowing how to follow. Because like you said, there's guys who will say just fuck you, I'm not doing that, or stuff, and that could be just as toxic as a guy who lets his pride sink the ship.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also they're valuing the guys that are following all the time, because whole basic laws of power is like you never want to outshine the master, right? So you kind of just maybe you give some suggestions, or maybe you pull them off to the side, or you find different ways to kind of get your point across, because a lot of the times you may find yourself in combat and your captain just really he doesn't have that much experience, and your team sergeant don't either, and it's a regular team guy. It doesn't matter what MOS, he might have the good idea. He may not be in the whole take out the trash and sweep the floors anymore, but he's not team leadership. And there are times where they will you will suggest something that just makes sense. And is your leadership going to take that advice, or are they going to say, shut the hell up, dude, get back to get back in your lane? How do you approach your leadership with better advice? How do you go up to your boss and like, hey man, you know what? You know what you're doing. This is how you want to do it. I mean, that's just not going to work, right? But how do you come up with somebody like, hey, I've seen this before. Maybe this is a good idea, or how to gently kind of, maybe work an idea into their brain where it almost seems like they came up with it.
Yeah.
Or not do it in public. There's plenty of ways to do that kind of behavior, and it's all being selected. It's all being evaluated. Then, how diplomatic are you? With your leadership. So it goes in full scale, man, and it's a great course. It's worked out. I would say, even though some guys kind of fall through the cracks, generally, I would say 99% of the guys that I've served with, or that are in the regiment, have something that I admire. They're not total shitbags. Even some guys are like, man, that dude, how the hell did that guy get in? But if you dig far enough, you're gonna find something like, oh, that's why that dude is very good at this, because everybody's good at something, right?
Yeah.
And I think the course does a pretty good job of weeding people out. Because on this side of the house, I mean, dude, I've integrated into several ODAs a lot, where, hey, they need a volunteer because I have a particular MOS or specialty of some sort, and I'll go volunteer and go with those guys. Never worked with them before, different company, different battalion, different group, and I just end up, and right off the bat, we just take off and keep moving forward, like if I've known them forever. I've run into people in the street or at a school or anywhere else, and we have kind of I don't know if it's a running joke, but I've definitely commented, and we talk about all the time, you're only one guy away from knowing that guy. So you're like one friend removed, because everybody, it's a small community, you all know. So even if you don't know that guy, you'll run into some guy, I don't know, anywhere, right? Walking around Columbia somewhere, you see a team guy or an ex-team guy, and you're like one guy away. It just works out that way. If you start talking about what years they went to the Q course, where they've been, what group they're on, you'll have one guy you're in common with. Very rarely don't you. So it's just kind of, it's a small community, man. I don't even know where I got off on that, or where I went that direction, but let's bring it back to where we were.
Well, I was kind of, how long is it from, when you basically enter, this world to when you become operational? Is it, I think you said something, 3 years, something like that?
Yeah, and it was, in my experience, I joined in 08. I was in Afghanistan in 12. So I would say 3.5, 4 years, till I was doing the job. It takes a while, and I think I was, but it could take as little as 3 years. I mean, it depends on when your unit that you get assigned to is deploying. But you get back from the Q course, if you're deploying right away. I didn't deploy till, I think, about 6 months, 7 months after I got back, and so burned out some leave and integrated into a team, and then I took off. But it could definitely be a while. But I would say this. I mean, the first time I got in a firefight, it was so natural. I didn't freak out. It seemed just like another training iteration. We use a lot of blanks. We use a lot of simunition rounds. You do it over. You rehearse these battle drills, and you teach the battle drills, and you kind of become the goddamn battle drill. So when bullets start flying, you're just so natural to start running towards the fire instead of running away from it, because you just want to go execute what you've been trained for. literally for years. So it's I think there's a little bit of difference there with the conventional forces, because in that, I mean, you can join, let's say, the Army, because that's what I know. I don't know much about the Marine Corps, but you can join, go through basic training 4 months, 5 months, or whatever it takes, you know, combined or even less, and then just find yourself in a deploying unit. You're already overseas with you know 3 to maybe 6 months training. Um,
Yeah.
that's
I was
that's
I was what I went in the end of July of '07, and in October of '08 was my first deployment.
yeah,
And you know, I was lucky. I had a 9-month workup with my unit, but you know, a lot of my buddies, especially earlier on in the wars, you know, they met their unit in Kuwait, you know, when they were getting ready to invade Iraq, or you know, so they had literally zero training experience with the guys that they were actually, you know, fighting in combat with. Um, so you know, and I understand, you know, you guys are doing all this, you know, shit, and is can you say, like, what is the size of, you know, a deploying force? Can you say that, or?
yeah. No, I don't think that's you can read all over the internet. So it depends what your mission is. Now, the special forces mission is it's a little bit different than the conventional. I mean, we're force multipliers, and we actually do this because I've done it. You show up somewhere and you meet with, um, let's say, the warlord or whatever in Afghanistan, you know, and you basically build some rapport with them, and you solicit that they, you know, come and fight with you. On one occasion, um, I won't, you know, name areas or anything, but you know, we met up with an individual who had a lot of people that were loyal to him, and we just simply asked, like, hey, we know you're not exactly aligned with the U.S., but you welcome us into your house, and there's these other guys that you're at war with. So how about we kind of work together? We can go back to fighting each other later on, but for now, we can kind of work together and fight these guys, and then after that, we, you know, maybe we kind of pull out of this area for a while, or you kind of negotiate something, and those words may or may not mean a lot to them or your higher headquarters, but the guys on the ground, that 12-man ODA, because that's the size of our teams. I mean, you go in there in bed with these guys, and you may or may not have some time to train up with them, and then you kind of just turn around and go fight some bad guys.
And you're living with these guys too, like the you know, the local militia, whatever you call them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, your guerrilla forces, we call them in the queue, but they, I mean, they're just fighters, man. I mean, they'll you know, they like in my situation, they didn't even ask for money. They just wanted to be equipped, they wanted to be armed, and they wanted to get some bullets, and they wanted to fight for their land back that had been taken from them. So,
So
and there's
they made a movie that came out. Was it the horse soldiers or something like that? And
Horse
was that
Soldiers, the book.
Afghanistan?
It was 12 Strong.
Yeah, 12 Strong.
It's a little it's a little off. I think it's Hollywood. You know, I don't think definitely combat is not that, it's not that cool, and I've never been in a battle like that. Maybe I just had a shitty career, but I definitely never rode on horseback and, you know, fired full auto. I don't know how they went through that entire movie shooting full auto and never running out of bullets. There's a great logistics guy there, but I think it's one of those things that the story behind it, like the story in the book, is probably a little bit more accurate. There's a lot more involved, a lot less officer involved, a lot more of the team, a lot more of the NCOs. So in that movie, it's depicted like literally the officer is the guy that just kind of punt passes and shoots. I mean, he does everything. And in reality, even though you know, I love my regiment's officers, and else wouldn't be becoming one, but I think I think the story was a little lost there with the credit should have been a little bit more due to the NCOs, some of which I've met. Um, and it kind of briefly paints a picture, man. But if they made movies of how boring, experiences are in Afghanistan and how slow it actually is, I think that no one will sit down and watch it. I think they kind of touched on the key points and made it a little bit more Hollywood and kept you engaged because nobody wants to see a boring movie.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's I think it's pretty similar to that. The folks he wasn't like the Northern Alliance or anything, but you find yourself in these situations where you are engaging with people of influence and convincing them to work with us and going to war with these guys. You are living in those, like, that was pretty accurate. I mean, I was living in mud huts and, inside of a school or anything like that. Anything we can kind of get some shelter from. But yeah, you're not living in some giant base, at least not during an operation. I've kind of done both. Some years back, we had the village stability operations. That was kind of a big thing back in my first deployment. And basically, you kind of just took over a compound, a mud kalak, basically, and built up some towers and put some. We'd always get infantry guys, and they would guard our towers and kind of kept watch, and we would go out and do operations. But we would be living in a village, and I'd do it a disservice. It was, if I just kind of left it at that. A lot of the things that we do, we bring good to these places. We bring our 18 Deltar medic, and he's able to treat a lot of the illnesses in this town. Or we bring, a communication guy could probably set up a tower to get them radio, get a little bit more outside influence into them. Our psychological operations guys that are attached to us, our enablers, they come out and they bring good programs to get these guys some fertilizer and all these things they might need. It can kind of backfire at times, but there are other programs that we bring. We built a school in one location, and we brought education for boys and girls down in southern Kandahar. So it's not all gunfights and whatnot. ODAs do a lot of things.
It sounds like it's a lot of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of thing. You help us out, we'll help you out. And it's, been a kind of symbiotic relationship.
I think I would say yes. I mean, we come in with an objective, and we're there to help, honestly. Because you find out really quick that if you just go around just shooting the bad guys, then you just build more bad guys, right? So, just a second here, my battery's dying. But it'll be good. You build more enemies that way. So a lot of things that we start doing, you want to win the hearts and minds, and sometimes you just can't. I think we've failed in that policy over and over again. I don't think, maybe we're not over there. Maybe we don't care. Our skin's not in the game. But when we do deploy, we're so caught up in wanting to recreate a kind of horse soldiers or 12 strong movie and get in these awesome firefights and pin on some awesome medals and come back. That kind of attitude, and it goes in everybody. I mean, everybody wants to be their hometown hero, myself included. And we shy away from the things that actually matter, like, helping these people out and getting them to know America as we learn to love her, as we love it ourselves. I had an experience with a Taliban that we were able to capture, or better said, our host nation partner force captured. And guy happened to speak English. Guy was pretty articulate. He was an engineer, and it was kind of a big deal that he spoke English. I mean, you catch a room full of Taliban guys, and this guy's just kind of well spoken. So I sit down with him. I think I sat down with him for about maybe 10 hours, man. And I'm getting kind of his story because I was interested. And plus, I mean, shoot, man, a Taliban dude that speaks English is kind of a big deal. So he starts telling him about when he was back home in Peshawar, where he was from, that there used to be an American school there, and that he had, I asked him, like, why did you join? And he says, well, kind of, there was this guy at the market that kind of would kind of come around, and he'd tell us about all these awesome stories and about all these Americans that they were killing in Afghanistan, and how they were, getting the oppressors out of the country, and that we needed to join the fight because there's a holy war and whatnot. So I got spun up because at the time I lost my job in a textile factory, where I was kind of, I guess he was like a vice president or something, just needed money. And he says, well, he bought off on the ideology, and he kind of just came over to fight. He'd been there for like 2 weeks, and he grabbed them up. So it's a really short-lived Taliban career there, but even them, anybody wants to be a hometown hero, man. And
yeah, it seems kind of like the same spiel that you get from recruiters here is, hey, your country needs you and your people need you. And
yeah, no, absolutely. And and honestly, I still believe in it, and I think the military is a place where you can, the Army, you say, be all you can be back in when we were kids. And it's something that I still believe in. It's a cause I still believe in. Not so much to, hey, let's go, fight here and there, just to fight. But I think there's a lot of good in the things we've done, and I've seen it. There's a lot of bad people that need some killing too, and I've seen them. I've killed them, and there just seems to be more. But it's a pretty well-rounded organization, man. We do quite a bit. But dude, I'm gonna take a little quick pause and take a leak real quick, man.
Okay, yeah, no more. All right, so just a couple questions, and I'll get you out of here. So I worked with, we worked with, is it ODA? I never really knew, we never really knew what to call them.
So a detachment of 12 guys is a team, an ODA, or an A team.
So we did, they would fly into our main camp was Camp Aria, just outside of Fallujah. And it's really easy to tell, guys with the big ass beards and, looking like they're carrying everything they own on their back. But, we did a lot of anti-sniper operations with them. We would drop them off and pick them up a week later, and they kind of live out with the people. Is that do you get like a fulfilledness from that, of actually, seeing kind of the changes and knowing that you are kind of down there making the positive changes in the environment that, you're operating in?
I don't think I've ever been lucky enough to see the positive changes. I think it's not that I don't think it's pointless, but it's just it's so hard to tell, because it's just like anybody, man. You're at the end of the day, we're to them and to anybody, regardless. We're that oppressive nation that's there, meddling in their affairs, or we're there to help them out. But then we take off suddenly and leave them hanging, and then the new group of guys kind of roll in, and those guys aren't as nice. So you kind of have, at least since I'm not that older of a guy, I kind of got into the war pretty later. I would say, probably about halfway, or maybe a little earlier than halfway. I think in Afghanistan, because I didn't have any Iraq experience. I think it's something that that people are so burnt out, and they get to the point where I think they see Americans or soldiers or anybody, they establish a relationship, but like, what can I get out of this guy within the 5 to 6 months rotation that he's going to be here in my town before he leaves? Can I get gas? Can I get it can be a recommendation for his visa, passport, because everybody wants to leave, right? Can I build friends with this guy that I can be later on Facebook friends with, and stay in touch and whatever, right? So there is a lot of that attitude, especially with the younger generation. I think a lot of it is lip service, and that's just coming from a position where, but that's just how it was, man. And I would do exactly the same thing. Guys rotate in and out. Some guys are nice, some guys are not. So nobody ever sees the difference. I mean, we've been out there for about 20 years, 19, I guess. But I mean, the positive changes, I mean, it's getting worse every day. And people, we haven't done a great job in fulfilling what we promise in certain aspects. Like, hey, um, I was down in southern Kandahar, near the Helmand River, and it's just, when I look back at it now, you would think, oh, that place is, we've got it's grown stable now. No, now it's just like a worse Taliban stronghold than it's ever been. So we've pulled back to the bases, and that's not me disagreeing with policy. I'll support anything, any order I'm given. It's kind of my job. But as far as seeing the difference, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I think we've brought in a lot of good, but a lot of good that I think we bring is somewhat temporary at times. I think we position ourselves well, and I think the biggest things that we take out of, let's say, the war in Afghanistan is that we have a lot of hardened combat troops. We have a lot of guys that have combat experience, and let's say if we ever did get into a near peer war, I think we've got a lot of dudes that like war, like I do, and would be thrilled at the idea to kind of keep fighting, because that's who you are, that's who you become. As far as what we've done for the Afghan people, well, I don't think I'm in the position to say what we've done. I personally haven't done much for them. I've tried. I've gotten a lot of thank you for kids. There was areas where we kind of, this last rotation, we pushed ISIS down, kind of pushed them back into Pakistan and kind of freed up some areas. But I don't know, maybe the day we leave, they're back. I mean, so anything lasting, who knows? Maybe we have, maybe we don't. I honestly don't. I don't think about it much, honestly, Andrew. It's just
Just doing your job.
It just maybe it's selfish of me, but I'm not fighting for the Afghan people. I'm fighting for America. You know, their benefits are secondary to me. America first. Bottom line is that's how I feel, and that's kind of how I gauge my contributions. Are we safer here? Maybe, maybe not. But is there more people that are capable of fighting and protecting now? I know I am. If somebody came after my family, well, I know what to do. I'm trained to do it. Someone came after me, my extended family, my community, or anything else. There's a lot of guys. So in that aspect, yeah. I mean, we have benefited from it, but maybe not in the way that other people see it, or maybe I just don't see, through rose-colored glasses. Just maybe a little bit more stoic about it.
I get that. So, we have a thing where we do, sort of our favorites. And so I'll just ask you, what your favorite thing is. You let me know, and then I'll get you out of here.
Yeah, man. I mean, we could take a little bit more time. I'm in no rush. So, like the hour, I'm not working right now. So, whatever needs to extend into, well, I'm good with it, man. I'll probably just start getting like parts and tired, but other than that, man, ask away. Let's just keep it going.
Okay. So we'll start. It's hard to figure out a question because like I said, the most important thing is to keep everyone safe and your guys' operational security. I don't want you to get in trouble for anything. But so. What is you guys have a support system when you're out on a mission, or is it basically understood that you have to carry everything you may possibly need, or do you guys, is that I know generally in an op order or something there'll be a supply, what is it, supply,
a resupply, yeah. I mean, I would say the way to answer that best is just how good you plan for a mission. I've been with ODAs where we just kind of hiked in with 5 or 6 magazines because we want to be light and get the job done and leave. Then I've been with on other operations where we expect to be there for a month. So we bring in trucks and we bring in bulldozers and we bring anything our hands can get on, and how, depending on how good our logistics guys, which we call our 18 Charlies, on a team, we kind of have our own MOSs and secondary MOSs. So if you got a good Charlie, that guy's gonna bring anything and everything. And how we do that and how we execute a mission just depends on what our capabilities are, or or what's needed out there. But if it's quick and fast, then you're not taking much. If it's you're going to be there for a long time, um, or if it's quick and fast, and you're going to have a resupply plan. There's going to be something to kind of outfit you. But yeah, no OPSEC issues there, man. I mean, it just kind of depends on the mission. Um, so we usually pack a big heavier. Because we can carry it, because we want to carry it, and you never want to be in a situation where you wish you had something. I mean, there's always going to be that situation, right? One of the biggest things that we have at our disposal is our air assets. We go into a mission, and you got a guy. Like I'm a trained JTAC, so you get some birds. You get some check on station, and you can drop bombs, and you can kind of take care of your guys. So maybe you don't have a mortar system or anything like that, but you can still reach out and touch the enemy if they're out there or behind a wall or anything else. Packing too heavy, then it just gets too much of a struggle.
Do you guys take priority in your missions, or is it situational dependent?
It's absolutely situational dependent, man. I mean, it's bottom line. There's always somebody cooler than you. You're never the tip of the spear that you talk about when you go out to a bar and I'm this guy and I'm super cool. And bottom line, when you're in country, there's always somebody cooler than you, and you get used to it. And if you're lucky enough to get those assets allocated to you, then you got everything you need. It doesn't guarantee you that, let's say, the Marine platoon that's down the road gets in the tick, they're taking your assets. Life, limb, or eyesight take precedence. So you snatching up some guy in a Kalad, when there's a Marine that's wounded, it's probably going to go to them, and it should. So it's not. There is a sort of a feeling, and I think SF sometimes kind of misrepresents that, and I've done it myself. Is you go in somewhere and you're the guy, like you said, you're the guy with the long beard, you got the cool Oakley glasses, and your hair is long as hell, and you're dirty, and you just got that movie star look. But in reality, man, it's just a lot goes into our planning. If we have all the cool stuff, it's because somebody allocated funds and they were planned for, and those missions that we go on, we don't kind of like do things kind of sua sponte. It's not ad lib. It's not just kind of shot out there, we don't roll the dice. So I think as far as planning goes and logistics and everything like that, we plan to the gnat's ass. We'll go into isolation for days and figure these things out and come up with every possible scenario that can come out. At the end of the day, shit still goes bad, and the plan, as long as the plan is, or the commander's intent is met, then we call it mission success. But every plan, even if you account for every what if that you could possibly come up with, something's going to go bad. Somebody's going to throw the monkey wrench in there because, I guess, I don't know if they do. I would assume the Taliban just gets lucky sometimes, or maybe they plan. Who knows? But there's a lot that goes into those things, man. A lot of things that go into a packing list. But yeah, I don't know how I might have just answered your question with a bunch of other things, man. So next question.
Are your teams run? I know SEAL teams are run pretty democratically. Everyone kind of gets an input. Do you guys run similar to that way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every section of a team, and they're broken down by MOSs, kind of has their portion of the op order, or whatever we're getting, a con op or something. So everybody kind of has input. Once the doors are closed, we kind of all sit around it and all come up with ideas. Everybody on a team is respected and they have a good idea. There's some really, really smarter guys on teams, and there's some guys that just, they're there and they're a gun in the fight. But they're a goddamn good gun and probably the best, right? So there's the guys that are just, they live off of that shit. They love MDMP and military decision-making process, and they really dive deep into it. And try to come up with every contingency possible. But everybody brings something to the table. and everybody's voice is respected. Once you're on a team, you could be the captain. A lot of times, whoever has most experience in the area possibly is going to have kind of the stronger vote in that one, in that regard. So it just depends on your leadership as well. But no, it's very democratic, if you will. Um, there's there's something that you can learn from anybody, even if it's how not to do it, right? So every point is valid, everything comes up, and it has to be that way. I mean, it's a collective effort to come up with a plan. So,
Do you enjoy working with the different branches? Like like I said, we would every so often we would insert a ODA team or help to pick them up so they wouldn't have to hump it back to the camp or whatever.
yeah, man, absolutely. With the JTAC stuff, I've worked with. I actually went to the Marine Corps school for that EWTG PAC, and working on Marines. I didn't work with. I'm gonna plug this thing because it's already starting to give me notifications.
All right.
All right, getting some juice back, but yeah, man. I mean, operationally, I've never had the privilege to work with Marines. I'm a little biased. About half my team are prior Marines. I know you guys don't like the whole ex-Marine thing, but yeah, they bring a lot to the table, even if they're coming from. Schoolhouse wise, I've worked with a lot of SEALs, Marines, Air Force. Um, I would say the other services, never worked with Coast Guard and seen one at an airport. Gotten a physical at Coast Guard Island, but other than that, I mean, operationally, I haven't been blessed with working with so many other branches. Worked with some other countries, but that's pretty much it, man. I mean, it's I always like to. I'm pretty biased just because I've seen a lot of the guys that we pick up come from the Marine Corps, and they seem to be a lot more squared away. I think the culture there has a lot more discipline with guys coming out, and what I always enjoy working with other guys, man.
Was there a large influx of guys getting out of the Marine Corps and going to do what you do? Was that prior to like MARSOC becoming because I got out in 11 and MARSOC was kind of just getting kind of off the ground. They were
Recon or
force. They're switching from force to MARSOC.
I got to work with MARSOC in its infancy quite a bit. We did an exercise together, and other courses. MARSOC guys are fucking smart, man. I've never met a guy that I didn't like and that wasn't very capable out of MARSOC. As far as the exit goes, the exodus out of the Marine Corps, I think it continues to happen. And I don't know what the selection criteria or rate is over at MARSOC, but we still get a lot of infantry guys kind of coming over, or just general, other MOSs in the Marine Corps. So I would say, thinking about the guys that I'm talking about, they all came from recon actually. So they kind of just maybe they just didn't like it. I haven't had a guy come over from MARSOC. Just recon guys. They just, I guess, they didn't like it there, or maybe maybe they didn't make it into MARSOC. I don't know. I never asked. They came over, but MARSOC is they're awesome. They're tacked up pretty highly on my book. They're extremely capable. So I don't know why they would bypass an opportunity to go there and come here. But at the end of the day, we are kind of the biggest gang on the block. We make up most of SOCOM.
Do you operate with other special forces, or is that like just generally a school thing where you would cross paths with them?
We do. You know, there's times that you do. I just personally haven't had that opportunity in combat. But in garrison, we do a lot. There's a lot of exercises that we both participate in, and we get to work together and kind of gel. And at schools that we either share, they kind of come over to ours, or we go over theirs. But yeah, we work with them. I work closely with PJs, not PJs, sorry, CCTs, in the Air Force. But that's probably my nearest, just because of my JTAC schooling, and I've got to keep currency, so I see those guys a lot.
So, how long into your operating career was it before you had like an oh shit moment? You know, like was it? And you know, I'm not trying to say that you weren't prepared, but sometimes something that you couldn't have thought of in 100 years can pop up, or was it I think mine was I failed to notice that my bolt didn't fully close. And so, you try to pull the trigger and you get nothing, and it's like, holy shit, or
yeah, man.
Standing on, a ramp to, do a halo jump or, something like that. Was there any like, oh shit moments that stand out?
Yeah, actually, there's a recent one that the guys would give me shit for, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. I mean, we all have our specialties and stuff, but there was on one occasion sometimes you sit and you have cross training within your own team. Your Bravos, your weapons guys, they're giving you a class on, let's say, anything. In this particular situation, we get a class on the Carl Gustav, right? It's something that I've shot a bunch of times in combat, some training, but mostly in combat. And it's a hell of a gun. It's awesome, right? And
that's an anti-armor gun, right?
Yeah. I mean, it does some cool stuff, man. And we're in a firefight, and I've always shot them, and they've always had a sight on it, where I just look through the people and we can get it somewhere, and just kind of pull the trigger. It's got a trigger, and I get one loading up, and of course I got the class, but I didn't pay attention, man. I mean, I'm a 10-year SF guy. I mean, it's just what are they going to teach me about a Carl Gustav? The guy teaching me it was slightly less experienced than I, so I didn't even pay attention in his class. But I didn't notice that the one that I had in my truck, they had taken the sight off of it, and that there were some flip-up sights in it, kind of like the AT4. You kind of pop those sights and they pop up. But I just never shot it that way. So my oh shit moment is when we're engaged in this firefight, and it's all hell's breaking loose. I mean, it's not as cool as the movie Horse Soldiers, or what it's called, 12 Strong. But yeah, there's bullets flying, guys are shooting. It's a whole freaking bazaar, just lighting up. And I get this thing and I can't see the sights. And I'm like, oh shit, I can't see, like, how do you sight this thing? So I get on the radio, and I shouldn't have done that. But I get on the radio with my guys. I'm like, hey, who the fuck took the sight off this Carl Gustav? Right? And of course, my smart ass Bravo kind of jumps back down there. It's like, use the pop-up sights. And I respond back, this fucking thing doesn't have pop-up sights. And he's like, slide your arm forward, slide it forward, and it'll pop up. Do the same in the back. And I was like, God damn it. The whole detachment, and anybody else listening on this whole radio thing just saw that I'm a total fucking retard. And I didn't know how to use my weapon system like I should, man. And that was an oh shit moment. And it's funny enough, I actually shot before that, and it kind of went over a mountain. God knows where it landed. And then when I started, really thinking that I needed the sights, because I was shooting not even into the firefight. But yeah, man, it's just, it happens to everyone. There's always an oh shit moment, and it's how you recover from it. And it's having the balls to kind of, when you make a mistake, just just make fun of yourself. And shit's not always going to go your way, and how you act when it doesn't. And that's, for myself, that was just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of fucked up, man. I'm a communications guy, so I dealt with all the radios, and I dealt with the satellite antennas and getting the computer networks up and running. So that was just you don't pay as much attention when it happens, especially when you think you're a hell of a lot better than you really are. And there's simple moments in life that kind of ground you. And I wouldn't admit, now I just don't care. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes they're funny, and you learn from them. That's it. It's never going to happen again, and it's a good thing. But that's just the one that popped out of my head because you brought yours up, man. But I think everybody has those shit moments, man, and I think it's an opportunity to where it kind of just taps you on the shoulder and tells you, dude, you think you're a badass. Well, don't skip the small shit. Really minor details. The devil's in the details. Paying attention in class, which we give our own classes. So we're prepping for a mission. We'll literally have range days when we go out and we test fire our weapons, and we go through all of our weapon systems, and we still do that. We never leave the basics.
And have you done Halo jumps?
I'm not a Halo qualified guy. I'm not on a Halo team. I just done static line. Never been to Halo, and I think in this far in my career, I don't think I'll even go to Halo. Before, when I went through, it wasn't, everybody didn't go through. Now everybody goes through Halo. But when I was going through the course, only the Halo team guys went through Halo school. So you have your specialty, your team specialty, and not everybody goes though.
Sorry, the kid's bothering me. So what was it like that first time when you hook up to the line and somebody tells you, it's your turn to jump out? What was that like that first time?
I think the Army is pretty good at really pushing rehearsals. So the first time I jumped out of a plane, and the only way I could describe it is it just becomes automatic. So when you're going through 3 weeks of probably one of the I would say professionally run course, airborne school. I think it's these guys literally, they memorize, and they love their job, and they memorize large scripts of things. So when I say professionally, these guys are very professional. Sometimes it might be a little lame, so I kind of roll my eyes on it, but at the end of the day, it did exactly what it needed to do. When you're going through this, maybe it's day 1 or 2, I forgot when, but you kind of start going down the count line, and I would be able to pull it out of memory right now about the steps you take. So you're given a few commands where you're kind of, everything you're gonna do, you start doing. You kind of check your strap, you check your chin strap, you check your equipment, you make sure the guy's equipment in front of you is okay. You slap the guy in the rear end to just tell the guy in front, the jump master, that everything's all okay. But there's a series of commands that are just given that you memorize to get you to that point. So that when that green light turns on and your jump master's kind of staring down through the window, and he kind of says go, when it's go, you just kind of keep going. Either you're in the front guy or you're a guy in the middle. You're not going to stop and kind of think about it. You do it over and over again off of a ledge that's like 2 feet high. You just jump, 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 jump. And then you go into an apparatus that kind of just hooks you up, and you jump, and you jump, and you jump. Then you get into a mock plane, and you jump, and you jump. You go through all these commands over and over. Every time you freaking jump, you got BAR, basic airborne refresher, and you say these commands over and over and over again. By the time you're in a plane or a helicopter, whatever you're jumping with, you just, as soon as those commands start coming, you kind of just fall back on your training. I didn't feel anything. I just, you feel it when you're already out of the plane, because you kind of just go into this countdown. At least I do. Maybe that's just how my mind works. I kind of just started repeating all the stuff, and the next thing I know, I'm out in the plane, chute opening up, and I'm about to land like a sack of potatoes. But it never has been like, I've never been at the ramp, and you can't. You physically can't. They'll pull you back in, and if you literally stop at the edge of the ramp and not jump, you're supposed to go when you go, and it's a limited amount of time. You put all your confidence and your livelihood on that jump master, that he's making you jump at the right time, because where you're jumping, you're gonna kind of flow down to an area where they already calculated that you're going to land. There's not just some massive field. On one occasion, I jumped out down in Los Alamitos, and when my canopy opened and I looked down, I think I saw Disneyland, and I saw like I don't know what it was, like the 405 freeway or something like that, and I was like, oh shit! And I see the base just like, further down, and I remember just kind of riding the wind all the way over and barely making it into the fence. So I made it back. So there's a way to steer. Not always all that easy, but luckily the wind was in our favor. There was a few of us, but it was. But as far as stopping and having a no shit moment right there, yeah, not at least not in airborne operations.
So it's designed to mitigate that is what it sounds like. Is you've done it so many times from crawl, walk, run to where when you're up there it's just second nature just to take that step and go.
Yeah, I think rehearsals are key. Rehearsals are everything. When I was in my first firefight, I just bullets started flying and I just started shooting back. I didn't think about it, and it just I just started shooting. There's people around, and okay, well, they're shooting at me, so I got to shoot them back. And it wasn't a thought process. There wasn't a decision to be made, and my mind had already made that decision back in training. When this happens, you do this, because that's what a battle drill is, right? When you find yourself in this situation, you do this. Every single time you do this. It might not be left or right, but you will make a decision, and it's not a decision about shooting back. Or if you have to shoot back, it's just fucking shoot back in the direction you're being fired at, right? But I think that's why I said I think the military does a really, really good job ingraining training into people, because it's automatic. It's a drill, just like airborne. It's a drill. Battle drills, firefights, they're all a drill you follow. It might calm down and slow down after a while, but dude, I mean, when you're going through a house, you kick a door in and you're going through a house and doing some housework, there's a lot going on in your head. And obviously you may not know the layout of the house, but there's basic principles that you're always going to follow. You're not going to go in the same direction as the guy in front of you. You're just going to split up, and things just start happening because you work those details out in training. You're not doing them out in combat. So practice makes perfect. I think it's just one of those things that everything becomes easier when you drilled it a bunch of times.
That makes sense. Okay, so what's your favorite MRE? That's a big question that we have.
My favorite MRE is chili with beans.
Okay. Yep.
There's a hot sauce in there, dude. I pour that, not the hot sauce, not the little tapatio, or what are they, the little Tabasco, little mini sauces. Chili with beans usually had this really, really spicy, like ground up pepper, and that shit was hella good, man. That would be those little small victories that I would have. I remember having that in selection, and shit, man, Mexican dude, man, total beaner. So I remember I would negotiate an MRA with other guys, and I would just stockpile these things, because every time I ate, I would sit down and it would just be my little moment of happiness of just eating some beans. Really, really simple thing, just making them super spicy, as spicy as I could tolerate it, and it was just it was my little happy moment. Everything else, dude, the freaking the omelet sucks ass. I've never been able to eat it. The rib sandwich is terrible in my opinion, but yeah, chili mac and chili with beans are up there. So you got the chicken one as well, the chicken soup one, and I haven't had one in a while, man. I've just kind of stayed away from them because they all just they stop me up good, man. I've got to have my bowel movements to be happy, and yeah, it's just they're like gum. They're terrible.
What's your favorite piece of I would say non-weapon equipment, like gear? I'd say the most common answer that we get is the poncho liner. The
Whoopee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of issued equipment, I think the Whoopi's got to take it, man. I think it's fucking awesome. But yeah, that's it, man. Everything else is just kind of a tool, but the Whoopi's good. I think the rucksacks are pretty good. The Alice packs. They started issuing them small towards these last few years, but the ruck itself is pretty well built. I think I kind of just started working towards it.
What's your favorite weapon system that you've used?
Scar Heavy.
Which is the Scar?
Yeah, Scar Heavy.
Yeah.
I've done some damage with that thing, and it's just such a good weapon system. I think it's just accurate. I love it. If I'm gonna be shooting something, it's just there. It's spot on every time. And,
What?
They're never let me down.
What's your the favorite country that you've been in? It doesn't have, just around the world.
Favorite country that I really enjoyed, I think. I would say where I probably enjoyed the most scenery and whatnot. I would say Macedonia. I think it's the Republic of North Macedonia now. I think it was a pretty cool country. Oak Ridge. They have like kind of their Lake Tahoe. It was just freaking awesome. People were super nice. I think hands down probably Macedonia was probably one of my favorite places where I've been.
What's your least favorite piece of gear? Like a piece of gear that you were issued that you literally could have gone your whole career without using.
I would say the ACU uniform would probably be the worst thing since I saw it, I hated it. But yeah, that gray tone of uniform is just terrible. I would say if we could consider that one a gear, that is something that's just been. I mean, I was happy to throw those away when we got rid of that uniform. I think it's cost a lot of lives, and it just looked goddamn ugly. Terrible.
Yeah, you say gray. I always see blue. I always see it as blue.
Yeah, they're just weird looking. I think it's one of those things where it just makes you colorblind. That everybody sees kind of what they want, but it was a terrible design, and all the gear that was in that pattern is just terrible. Our new multicams, or whatever they call them now, or OCP. I think it's a great uniform. I used the old BDU Woodland a lot in Afghanistan. Either a lot of my gear or my uniform was BDUs for the most part. Officially, it would be the multicams, but when I was out in the field, I would wear the old Woodlands. They're awesome.
Well, I think that's all I got for you. This go around. I appreciate you coming on and talking and being honest and insightful. And I wish you the best of luck and be safe. Good luck.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on there. I'm super stoked for your doing the podcast thing, man. So I think it's something that you do well, and you're gonna be very successful at, man. So all the best. Good luck. Say hi to Nancy.
I will, and say hi to your family. And it still trips me out how much you look like your brother.
We're brothers.
Yeah.
Especially right now that I shaved and but yeah, man, it's nice. He's my brother, so pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, and take it easy. Stay safe.
Take care. Later.
All right, later.